Commander Zilax's emergency transmission cut across all council frequencies, overriding diplomatic channels, military networks, and even the sacred meditation bands. She's holding both Starblades, Protocol Omega-7. I repeat, a human is holding both ancient Starblades, and they're not incinerating her. The Galactic Council chamber erupted into chaos. Impossible. The word ricocheted through 1,000 minds simultaneously, translated into 800 languages, all expressing the same cosmic-scale disbelief. The Starblades hadn't been in the same sector for 3 millennia, let alone the same room. The gravitational density alone, each blade contained the compressed mass of a collapsed star, should have torn through the station's structural integrity the moment they came within 100 meters of each other. Evacuation, Counselor Jataro's voice cracked as he lunged toward the emergency exits. Everyone out, the prophecy. According to YouTube analytics, 99.6% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. The being who can wield both shall unmake the threads of reality itself, Vexia whispered, her normally composed features draining of color. The ancient keeper had spent 6 centuries studying the Starblades, had written 17 volumes on why they could never, would never be held simultaneously. She stared at the scene before her like her entire existence had just been rendered fictional, and there, in the center of the council chamber's obsidian floor, stood Sarah Jackson. She held one Starblade in each hand, casually, like someone holding 2 particularly inconvenient brooms. "Sorry, excuse me," Sarah called out over the pandemonium, her maintenance uniform still dusty from the ventilation work she'd been doing in Sector 7. "Can someone point me toward the cleaning supply closet? I need to put these back, and I'm not really sure where." "Put them back?" Commander Zilax's translator struggled with the volume. How are you? The physical laws..." The Starblades gleamed in her grip, their ancient metal drinking in the chamber's light. Each weapon stood taller than Sarah herself, their edges sharp enough to split atoms, their weight equivalent to 50,000 tons of collapsed stellar matter. The blades that had killed 847 beings across 10,000 years just by their proximity. The artifacts that had destroyed 12 species who'd attempted to study them. The weapons that existed in a state of barely contained gravitational collapse, held together by physics so extreme that most scientists refused to work with them remotely. Sarah shifted her grip, apparently finding them a bit awkward to hold. "I mean, they're heavy, sure, but not like crazy heavy. Where did you guys say the closet was?" Emergency protocols screamed across 3 sectors. Blast doors slammed shut, military vessels altered course, converging on the station. In the high command center, 17 levels above, General Korvax watched his threat board light up like a supernova gone critical. "She's adjusting her grip," his tactical officer reported, voice hollow. "Sir, she switched the left one to her right hand, while holding the other one. The gravitational interference should be." "I know what should be happening," Korvax snapped. His mandibles clicked in the Vrexian expression of existential terror. "Get me every physicist we have. Get me the ancient texts division. Get me..." He paused, watching the human woman glance around the chamber with mild confusion. "Get me someone who can explain why reality hasn't collapsed yet." Back in the chamber, Counselor Zara had frozen mid-evacuation, her 3 eyes fixed on Sarah. "The structural integrity readings," she breathed. "The station's stable, more than stable. The gravitational shear patterns are organizing themselves around her." "That's not possible," Vexia said automatically, then realized how utterly meaningless that phrase had become. Nothing about this was possible. The Starblade's own mass should have pulled them from any being's grip, should have dragged the wielder into a gravitational singularity. That was documented, that was proven, that was... "Listen, I'm really sorry about the confusion," Sarah continued, completely oblivious to the cosmic panic radiating from every being in the chamber. I was just moving them because they were in the way of the floor buffer, and I figured someone left them out by mistake. They were just kind of leaning against the wall in the artifact storage hallway, and I needed to clean that section, so... Commander Zillax's translator made a sound like a dying star. You moved them, both of them, for floor buffing? Well, yeah, the cleaning schedule said... Sarah glanced down at the blades in her hands, then back up at the 100 species representatives now pressed against the far walls of the chamber, staring at her with expressions ranging from horror to religious awe. Wait, these aren't just art installations, are they? Did I screw something up? Because Jenkins said the really old stuff was usually just decorative and I should just work around it, but these were blocking the whole hallway. The prophecy terminal in the corner began glowing, ancient text scrolling across its surface in a language dead for 8,000 years. Vexia read it automatically, her translator vocalizing words that made 3 counselors faint. When the bearer of 2 stands unburnt, the foundations of known space shall crack, and what was forbidden becomes mundane. Sarah hefted the Starblade slightly, testing their weight. So, storage closet? Anyone? 60 pounds, Vexia's voice cracked. 60. Each blade contains the gravitational mass of a collapsed neutron star. The minimum weight should be 50,000 tons. Minimum. Sarah looked down at the Starblades, then back up, eyebrows raised. Are your scales different or something? Because I've carried heavier stuff, the cargo containers in Bay 7. Those are a real pain. These are just awkward. Because of the length, you know, she demonstrated by shifting both blades to one hand, using the other to gesture. See? The balance is weird, and the grip isn't ergonomic, but she's holding them in one hand, someone shrieked. The emergency gate at the chamber's far end exploded with light. High Commander Kael'thas materialized, his elite guard flanking him, weapons drawn and completely useless. He took one look at the scene and his scales went from deep purple to bone white. Evacuation status? His voice carried the weight of someone who'd commanded fleets through 3 galactic wars and had never sounded uncertain. Until now. She won't leave, sir, Zillax reported. She wants to know where the cleaning supply closet is. Kael'thas stared. His translator cycled through 6 languages trying to find words. The cleaning. I really need to finish my shift, Sarah added helpfully, now holding both Starblades in one hand while checking her watch with the other. I'm already behind schedule because of that coolant leak in engineering, and if I don't get the floors done before Gamma shift, Jenkins is going to be annoyed. A team of physicists burst through the side entrance, their scanning equipment humming. Chief Scientist R. Hill aimed his gravitational sensor at Sarah, watched it spark, smoke, and die. He pulled out a backup. Same result. The 3rd scanner simply displayed error, reality breach, and shut down. Ma'am, Kael'thas tried, his voice carefully controlled. Could you please put those down? Slowly. We can discuss. Oh, sure. Where do you want them? Sarah looked around the chamber. Back in the hallway? Or is there like a proper storage area? Because honestly, leaving them in a corridor seems like a safety hazard. She switched the Starblades to her other hand while talking, a casual motion like someone adjusting their grip on an umbrella. Every alarm in the station screamed louder. The energy signatures, R. Hill whispered, staring at his handheld terminal, the only device that hadn't exploded yet. They're stabilizing. The Starblades are entering a dormant state. That's impossible. They're always active. That's their nature. They can't become dormant unless... He looked up at Sarah, his 3 eyes wide with existential horror. Unless they recognize a true wielder. A what now? Sarah asked. Counselor Zara had pulled out an ancient measuring device, one of the few instruments old enough to have been designed before the Starblades were created. Commander, the gravitational shear, it's not just stable, it's organized. The normal chaos patterns around the blades have formed into coherent structures. It's like they're being tamed. Tamed, Kael'thas repeated. You can't tame a collapsed star's gravitational field. I know that, Zara snapped, but apparently she didn't get the memo. An emergency containment field snapped into place around Sarah, the kind designed to hold antimatter breaches. It flickered, wavered, and dissolved like morning mist. The backup fields activated. Same result. The tertiary containment systems, ancient technology from the first civilization, simply refused to activate at all. This is the third time, actually, Sarah mentioned, oblivious to the failing containment protocols. I moved these on Tuesday when I was doing the windows in that sector. Then again, on Thursday, because someone left them in front of the maintenance elevator. I just figured people kept forgetting to put them away properly. The ancient keeper made a sound like her entire worldview shattering. 3 times. You've moved the instruments of cosmic severance 3 times. This week. Is that bad? Sarah's expression shifted to concern. Am I going to get written up? Because Jenkins already warned me about touching stuff without checking the inventory system first, but these weren't tagged or labeled or anything. The warning glyphs, Vexia pointed with a trembling hand. Look at the warning glyphs. The ancient symbols carved into both blades, warnings in a language that predated most current civilizations, symbols that glowed with the light of dying suns to ward away any foolish enough to approach, were pulsing gently, and as everyone watched, they began to fade, like nightlights dimming in the morning. Those glyphs have burned with constant intensity for 12,000 years, Vexia said, her voice hollow. They don't fade. They can't fade. They're powered by the blade's own gravitational collapse. Rahil's remaining scanner beeped. He looked at it, looked at Sarah, looked back at his scanner. Commander, I'm reading standard human biomechanics, muscle stress consistent with carrying approximately 65 pounds per hand. Her bone density, muscle tension, cardiovascular response, everything reads as normal human parameters for moderate physical exertion. But that's... I know, Rahil interrupted, which means either our physics is wrong, or humans operate on completely different physical laws, or, he paused, the implications crashing over him, or the universe has different rules for them, and we never knew. Sarah shifted her weight. So, storage closet? Anyone? Because my arms are getting a little tired. Retree. Wait! Vexia held up a hand, her composure cracking. You said you've moved these before. Show me exactly how you pick them up. Precisely, Sarah blinked. Okay? She carefully set both Starblades down on the obsidian floor. The impact should have cracked the station in half. Instead, they settled with a gentle clink, like someone placing down silverware. Right, so you just... Sarah bent her knees, gripped one blade's handle, and lifted. You bend at the knees, not the back. Keep your core tight, lift with your legs. She demonstrated with the second blade. See, basic lifting technique. They're top-heavy, so you compensate by... She adjusted her grip, tilting the blade slightly. There. Pretty straightforward. Vexia had emerged from cultural stasis 6 hours ago, woken specifically because she was the galaxy's leading expert on the Starblades, with 10,000 years of compiled research literally encoded into her genetic memory. She had personally documented 847 attempts to lift the blades, 847 failures, 623 deaths, 224 species-wide catastrophes. She watched Sarah demonstrate basic lifting technique and felt her entire existence become meaningless. You just pick them up, Vexia repeated, her voice distant. Well, yeah, I mean, proper form is important. I threw out my back last year moving supply crates. That's when I started going to the gym. Sarah smiled. Jenkins recommended this great strength training program. Really helped with the heavy lifting. Gym, Commander Kael'thas said faintly. She trained at a gym to lift artifacts that bend space-time. Rahil had pulled up every gravitational reading taken near Sarah in the past 3 months. His hands shook as he scrolled through the data. Commander, she's right. She's been moving classified artifacts for 3 months. The void anchor in Bay 7, we documented it as mysteriously relocated 14 times. The temporal lock assembly, found in a different corridor every week. The eternity weights that crushed a cargo shuttle just by being in the same hangar. He looked up, his expression haunted. She moved all of them. We thought we had equipment failures, reality breaches. We never thought that a human janitor was just cleaning, Zilax finished. Maintenance technician, Sarah corrected. Janitor is Sector 9, different union. Across the chamber, the council's emergency session had devolved into academic warfare. 3 physicists were screaming at each other about gravitational constants. 2 more were frantically rewriting equations that had stood unchallenged for 6 millennia. 1 had given up entirely and was rocking in the corner, muttering, "The math was right. The math was always right." "If humans can manipulate collapsed star matter casually," General Korvac said slowly, watching the scene via holographic feed from the command center, "then their combat potential is beyond calculation," his tactical officer finished. "Sir, if she can move Starblades, what else can humans do? Our weapons, our defenses, our entire strategic doctrine assumes certain physical limitations that apparently don't apply to them." In the diplomatic wing, Ambassador Lirana was already composing urgent messages to every allied government. Human trade agreements would need complete renegotiation, defense pacts, technology exchanges, everything. "Wait, hang on." Sarah lowered the Starblade slightly. "You keep saying these are super dangerous. Are these weapons?" She looked at them with new concern. "I thought they were art installations. They're pretty and they've got those glowy symbols and they're always in the fancy corridors with the important-looking stuff." "Art installations," Vexia repeated numbly. She thought the instruments of cosmic severance were decorative. "Can they actually do something?" Sarah examined one blade more closely. "Like, are there buttons or switches or— oh wait, is this—" Her thumb pressed against what everyone had assumed was a decorative ridge on the handle. The Starblade activated. "No!" Kael'thas lunged forward. Energy erupted from the blade in a wave of reality-shredding force, the kind of power that had once erased an entire star system when the Vexthul Dominion had attempted to weaponize just one Starblade. The wave rolled outward, and everyone braced for oblivion. And the station's failing structural supports suddenly reinforced themselves. A coolant leak in Sector 3 that had plagued engineering for months sealed itself. The gravity generators in the lower decks, which had been operating at 70% efficiency for years, jumped to 100%, lighting systems that flickered normalized. Even the air circulation improved. The energy wave washed through the entire station, and everything it touched became better. "Oh," Sarah's face brightened. "That's handy. Does the other one do that too?" She activated the second Starblade. Another wave. The station's ancient quantum processors upgraded themselves. Decades of microfractures in the hull plating vanished. The backup power systems that hadn't worked in a century hummed to life. "I am so sorry," Sarah said, quickly deactivating both blades. "I didn't mean to. Are they supposed to do that?" "Because that seems really useful for maintenance, actually. Could save us a lot of repair time." She was still holding both Starblades. Both active Starblades. Casually, while apologizing for accidentally improving every system on the station. Our Hiles scanner finally gave up and displayed a single word. "Help." "Our physics isn't wrong," Vexia whispered, staring at Sarah. "We've just never encountered a species that physics treats differently. The universe has exceptions, and we're looking at one." Commander Zilax's translator had stopped trying to process his emotions and was just making a continuous high-pitched whine. "So," Sarah said into the stunned silence, both Starblades humming gently in her grip, "should I turn these back off, or—" Retry Our Hill had spent the last 20 minutes running every biological scan the station possessed on Sarah Jackson. Now he stood before the Emergency Council Assembly, his datapad trembling in his hands. "Her bone density," he began, his voice shaking, "operates at approximately 4.7 times what we considered the universal maximum for carbon-based life. Her muscle fiber composition includes structures we don't have names for because they shouldn't exist, and her cellular energy processing—" He paused, swallowing hard. She metabolizes gravity. Silence. I'm sorry, Counselor Jotaro said carefully. Did you say she metabolizes gravity? Her cells convert gravitational potential energy into biochemical energy as naturally as we process nutrients. It's not that she's immune to the Starblade's mass, she's feeding on it. To her nervous system, holding 50,000 tons of collapsed star matter feels like carrying 65 pounds because that's how much biological effort it requires after her cells have processed the gravitational differential. Vexia pulled up Sarah's gym records, public information, shockingly mundane. Her strength training regimen includes equipment that would... Oh, ancestors. Her voice faded. The resistance machines in the human gym section are calibrated to Earth's gravity. But Earth's gravity is 2.4 times what we consider survivable for sustained periods. She's been doing high-intensity training in conditions that would crush my exoskeleton. Let me get this straight, Commander Zilak said, his translator finally stable again. Humans don't just survive in conditions that violate our understanding of physics. They thrive in them. They exercise in them. They consider them normal. Your species, Kael'thas added, looking at Sarah with something between awe and existential terror, casually exists in conditions that would obliterate ours. You're not breaking physical laws, you're operating on a parallel set we didn't know existed. Sarah, who'd been quietly listening while still holding both Starblades, shrugged. I mean, Earth is a pretty standard planet. We've got heavier gravity than most places I've visited, sure, but it's not that extreme. Mom always said I was strong for my size, but that's just genetics and, growing up on a farm. Lots of heavy lifting. A farm, Vexia repeated. You develop the strength to wield reality-breaking weapons by agricultural labor. Well, that and the gym, and helping Dad with the construction company during summers. Sarah looked thoughtful. Oh, and I did competitive powerlifting in college. That probably helped. The ancient keeper pulled up the prophecy of the bearer again, reading it with new eyes. The being who can wield both shall unmake the threads of reality itself. She looked up. It wasn't a prophecy about power or conquest. It was about compatibility. The Starblades weren't weapons waiting for someone strong enough to command them. They were tools waiting for someone whose biology could safely interface with their properties. The glyphs faded because they're warning systems, Rahil added, his voice distant. They warn away beings who would be destroyed, but Sarah's physiology registers as compatible, safe. The Starblades recognize her as a valid operator. So they're not going to explode or destroy reality or anything? Sarah asked hopefully. Not in your hands, apparently, Kael'thas confirmed. Your casual competence is exactly what they've been waiting for. Not a warrior seeking power, not a scholar seeking knowledge. A maintenance technician who needed to move them so she could clean the floors. Sarah brightened. Oh, good. So where should I store them? Because the hallway really isn't appropriate. Maybe there's a secure... She looked around the chamber, spotted 2 decorative wall hooks that looked load-bearing. Would these work? Before anyone could stop her, she hung both Starblades on the wall hooks like coats. They stayed there, perfectly stable, humming contentedly. Jotaro said faintly, did she just store the galaxy's most dangerous artifacts on wall hooks? They appear secure, Sarah said, testing them gently. Each blade could have pulled the wall down. Neither moved. See? Sometimes the simple solution is the best one. You guys were probably overthinking it. Overthinking, Zelax muttered. Yes, clearly that was our mistake. Ms. Jackson, Kael'thas said formally, pulling himself together with visible effort. Would you be willing to serve as the official Starblade custodian? It would come with a security clearance upgrade and hazard pay, of course. How much hazard pay? He named a figure that made Sarah's eyes widen. Deal. Do I get business cards? We'll arrange something. Kael'thas turned to his staff. Update all protocols. Human involvement is now classified as a possible solution rather than a complication. And get me a xenobiology team. I want to know what else humans can do that we've been calling impossible. Sir, Zelax added quietly. Should we test the other humans on the station? Within an hour, they had their answer. Maintenance technician Michael Torres could lift the Starblades, though he complained they were awkward as hell. Engineer Patricia Chen managed it easily and suggested design improvements to the handles. Security officer James Wilson lifted both simultaneously while carrying on a conversation about his weekend plans. Every human on the station could manipulate artifacts that had been considered untouchable for millennia. Some found it easier than others, but all could do what should have been impossible. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Treaties were rewritten. Defense protocols updated. The phrase, "consult human personnel before declaring impossibility," became standard across all scientific documentation. And somewhere in the archives, scholars updated the prophecy of the bearer with a footnote, "fulfilled mundanely." 3 weeks later, the changes were everywhere. Station Directive 447 Alpha became standard across all Galactic Council facilities. Prior to classifying any task, object, or phenomenon as physically impossible, consult available human personnel. The Ancient Artifacts Division submitted 1,047 transfer requests for human staff within the first week. The Forbidden Vaults, sealed for 8,000 years because nothing could safely access their contents, now had a human intern named Kevin who'd reorganized the entire inventory system and added helpful labels. Sarah's quarters had become the unofficial storage facility for items previously considered too dangerous to house anywhere. The Starblades hung on her wall next to a framed photo of her niece and a poster of some Earth band called the Rolling Stones. She'd mentioned they made decent coat racks, which had caused 3 xenobiologists to require sedation. "Sarah, you got a minute?" Torres called from the corridor. "They want me to move the Eternity Sphere, but I'm not sure about the proper lifting technique for round objects that exist in 7 dimensions simultaneously." "Sure, but I'm still clocked in for cleaning, so I need to finish this section first." She guided her floor buffer around a corner, its hum echoing off the pristine walls. "Meet me at Bay 4 in 20. Oh, and bring the anti-grav dolly, not for the sphere, but I've got some actual heavy boxes to move after." Torres nodded and left. Sarah returned to her work, completely unaware that 17 levels above her, the High Council was in their 3rd emergency session of the week. The singing blade of Caxthar, Counselor Zara reported, has been silent for 6 millennia. Human technician Patricia Chen picked it up to dust it. It's been harmonizing constantly ever since. She thinks it's kind of soothing and keeps it playing during her shifts. "The Void Engine," another counselor added, his voice strained, "humanity's most catastrophic failed experiment, sealed away after it consumed its creators." Engineering intern David Martinez asked if he could take a look at it because it seemed like it had potential. He fixed it. It now powers the entire station's backup grid. He submitted a repair report saying it just needed some basic calibration and a firmware update. Kael'thas rubbed his temples, a gesture he'd learned from the humans, finding it oddly appropriate. "We're re-evaluating every sealed artifact in Council space. Preliminary estimates suggest that 73% of our forbidden technology is perfectly safe for human interaction. They've been walking past universe-ending dangers and thinking they were decorative." "Not decorative," Vexia corrected quietly. She'd spent the past 3 weeks having her entire worldview reconstructed. Functional. Humans don't see forbidden artifacts. They see tools that nobody's bothered to use properly. In the physics department, R. Hill had published 6 papers that fundamentally rewrote gravitational theory. 3 more species had contributed their own impossible observations about human capabilities. The scientific community was facing a revolution that made the discovery of faster-than-light travel look like a minor footnote. Sarah finished her section, checked her schedule display, and smiled. Starblade dusting, Tuesdays, had been added to her regular rotation. Beneath it, Void Engine maintenance consultation, Thursdays, and Impossible Artifacts general handling, as needed. She glanced at the Starblades on her wall. They did look nice with the lighting, actually. Maybe
She'd add some plants to the quarters, something green to brighten up the space. Earth plants, probably. She'd heard the botany department was having trouble with some of the more exotic specimens. Maybe she could help. "Hey, Sarah," Jenkins called, poking his head into her quarters. "Council's asking about overtime pay for your new artifact management duties." "Oh, good. I was going to ask about that." She powered down the floor buffer and stored it properly. "This is technically outside my normal maintenance scope, right? So time and a half?" "They're offering double time and a security clearance that apparently requires 3 different council votes." "Works for me. Let me just finish." She picked up her cleaning supply carrier, hoisting it onto her shoulder with casual ease. Jenkins watched her leave, then checked the carrier's manifest out of curiosity. Standard cleaning supplies. 47 different chemicals, tools, and equipment. Total weight, 3.2 tons. He pulled up his communicator. "R. Hill? Yeah, it's Jenkins. Add cleaning equipment to the list of things humans consider normal carrying weight." "No, I'm not joking. Yes, another one." In the High Council chamber, Commander Zilak stood at the observation window, watching Sarah cross the main concourse far below. She walked with the easy confidence of someone heading to their next task, tool carrier on her shoulder, completely oblivious to the diplomatic crisis teams scrambling 3 sectors over. "She just redefined physical possibility across the galaxy," he said quietly to Kael Thas, who joined him at the window. "Changed everything we thought we knew about the universe. Solved problems that have plagued us for millennia." They watched Sarah stop at a vending machine, contemplate her options, and select something called coffee. "And she's worried about overtime pay," Kael Thas finished. "Very human," Zilax agreed. "Very human indeed." Below, Sarah's communicator chimed with her updated schedule. Next to Starblade dusting, Tuesdays, was a new entry. Reality-defying artifact consultation. Wednesdays, see Council liaison for details. She read it, shrugged, and took a sip of her coffee. Just another day at work.